So I want to talk about the double-edged sword of autonomy that one might get within a work environment. And this is probably really geared towards somebody that is, could be anything from somebody that's self-employed to creating their own business. Maybe they are the CEO of a business, graduate students to professors, all sorts of people have a tremendous amount of autonomy in this world, right? Like, say, maybe you're cutting grass for a living and you have autonomy towards actually doing that job. And I want to talk about that in the sort of double-edged nature of autonomy. So, if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Massac. I'm Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship. And I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I want to pay the favor for to help you out. So autonomy is an interesting thing, right? So autonomy is a sort of ability to make your own decisions, have sort of freedom to do the work that you want to do at the time that you want to do it. But it is a tricky thing for a lot of different reasons. So there's tremendous amounts of benefits to this, right? So from what I understand, I'm not an organizational behavior person, but from what I understand, autonomy is back way back in graduate school when I took these courses. Autonomy is actually a really beneficial thing for a lot of people, and that's one of the reasons why people really enjoy their work, is that they have autonomy, they enjoy it. They're able to make their own decisions. They have a lot of basically empowerment, right? So thinking about empowerment, that you can do something and you see sort of returns on the thing that you're doing. However, it has a sort of double-edged sword that I think a lot of people have sort of experienced in the last couple of years, especially with COVID, with people working from home and whatnot. And we realize that autonomy is actually really challenging because, so the opposite of autonomy is that everything that you do, you report to somebody else, and that person tells you what to do, and you just simply execute, right? You're sort of almost like robotic in terms of what you're doing. And every job has degrees of this, right? Even a self-employed person doesn't have as much autonomy as what most people think, right? You're still you still have to, if you're that grass, mowing lawns, you still have to answer to your clients. So you don't necessarily have that much autonomy. But, what you realize is that when you're doing that, if you're being able to do that, if there's a screw up, if there's a problem, if there is issues, you can blame the person that's overseeing you, right? Like, that's an important thing to realize. That sort of problems that you experience really, it really comes down to that person that you're reporting to, and that's the person that you blame. They fix the problems, they absorb those problems, they fix it. Now, if you have more autonomy and you can control the decisions that you make, you have, you could do, you're empowered to make different decisions. If you screw up, then you have to come to terms with it. It's you that made that mistake. It's you that sort of screwed up. It's you that, you didn't sort of dedicate enough time to this thing. So the challenge that you face as somebody that's, more of an autonomous worker, right, is that you have a great deal of ambiguity in knowing, so you know that you have to work and you have to do the things that you need to do, but it's that sort of trigger point of, so that's the ambiguity and the difficulty lies in the trigger point, is like how much that you should work and how much you should sort of rely on, or how much you should actually do of something. And then, the sort of on the other side is the feelings you get. So even if you put in a lot of work and you do a lot of effort and you do everything right, sometimes things just screw up. And then you have a tendency to blame yourself, and you have a tendency to absorb some of the stuff that is going on. And it's a real challenge that you're going to go through and face as you're doing this. So I think, an important lesson is trying to figure out the right amount And there's all these kind of like fallacies or biases, human behavioral biases that we have that sort of judgment and decision making people study, where we more likely, it's called fundamental attribution error. We are more likely to blame the environment for when things go bad rather than ourselves, all these kind of things. But I think it's actually a useful thing. Um, we might think of it as a bias, right? Um, but it's also it's a self-preservation um, mechanism where we need to blame other things when there is things that are bad. If we don't, then we end up really absorbing these things, and it kind of takes you down in the long run, right? And you start, going into very negative behaviors like, depression and anxiety and all those things. If you're absorbing it, and eventually you got to learn. So I don't know, probably I don't know how many of you actually know this, but professors have a lot of autonomy in the sense that that they can work wherever and all that kind of stuff. And so what most professors actually do is just end up endlessly working a lot. And so for me, what I've ended up doing, so this is my own personal thing, is I ended up just kind of creating boundaries and being pretty almost like unforgiving, but I still beat myself up. Um, all the time. That's why I'm talking about this, right? You beat yourself up of like, I should be doing more. I should be doing more, right? Like I'm always telling myself that. And it's a real challenge for me to deal with this. But, I have to constantly be reminding myself it's okay. You can say no. These boundaries are healthy. You don't have to do everything. And all of those kind of sort of mantras or sayings in your head is really important for you to remember those things. And it's been, especially challenged for me building this whole reciprocity project because it does take a lot of effort. Lots of nights and weekends, lots and lots and lots to actually build this thing and do it. And then it's, realizing that, okay, I'm okay to, you know, not be working to build this thing out because I think it's actually really very important for everybody and figuring that out. So I actually end up working tremendously a lot more now because of it. But it's also enjoyable for me because I'm building, putting something together that hasn't existed. I know that there's a need and desire for it, all these kind of things, right? Or at least I think I do in my head. At least I have to sort of delude myself that there is that is going on. But, coming to terms with that, and I don't know what the right solution is. I don't think there is a right solution in terms of there's lots of things in life, if you didn't know this, that there isn't necessarily a right solution or how do you deal with this, all that kind of stuff. You simply just have to learn to say, okay, this is me. I'm good. I'm done. I'm a decent person. I tried, and then move on. And once you start getting to that moment where you're just like, I'm good with who I am. I'm a decent person. Remind that sort of mantra in your head, and then move on. And that's it. That's really all there is to it. Or else you're just gonna keep getting absorbed into it, and it's a real slippery slope. That sort of opposite side of autonomy can really eat you up. All right. With that, take care and have a wonderful day. All right. Bye.